Hello, hello.
Welcome.
Liz, so long.
I know, it's like two of my favorite people, and I haven't seen either of y'all in so long that I feel like there's so much to catch up on. Yeah, so excited. Chris, I want to hear about what?
You need to move to SoCal. Kim and I are getting Greek food on next Sunday.
Of course y'all are. Chris loves to talk about his Greek food needs. I do. I would love that. I'm jealous of you guys and Michelle, and everyone gets to see each other because y'all are all close and I'm not. But you could FaceTime me and then I can feel like I'm there.
Yes. And how was this? I mean, I've been gone, as people know. I've been gone because I was in Norway to see my other half that I seem to neglect too much. In Iceland, but I was gone, but I saw you had Grayson, you had a psychiatrist. How were the live streams while I was gone?
They were fun. We missed you, but yeah, so Grayson came on and we had Dr. Poskar and Dr. Hudak last week. So we talked a couple weeks ago, we talked all about meds. So it's been fun. But we missed you. We're really excited to have you back. How was your trip?
It was so nice. I think what's hard is Kim, we live in LA, and Liz, you live in a major city. But there's only 300,000 people in the entirety of Iceland. And then Oslo, which is where my grandfather was born and raised in Norway, they only have 300,000 people. The city I live in has 300,000 people, and it's a small city in Orange County, which is 3 million. So it was just crazy to see reindeer. They're real. I just thought they were made up this whole time, but they're real. But the sad thing is people eat it. I could not eat reindeer. I was they sell it everywhere, and I was like, no, I believe in Santa still. Yeah.
What do they call it? They don't say reindeers on the menu.
No, they do. I'm telling you, Liz, my heart was shattered. It's literally reindeer, they cook it and serve it like lamb or reindeer jerky or reindeer meat. So I'm still good with Santa. I didn't eat any of the reindeer. I just couldn't. But they're majestic and you see them everywhere, but it was beautiful. It was so much fun.
I love that. Good. You deserved it. And Kim, we're so excited to have you on today. I think all of our guests know who you are, and we'll do introductions in a minute, but how are you? Give us updates. How's life? You went to back home this summer, so we didn't see you at the conference. We missed you, but I want to hear all about it.
Yeah, no, I had to talk about small towns. My town has 400 people where I grew up. Yeah.
Is there a stoplight? That's what I always ask. No stoplight.
No.
How far from a grocery?
There's one small town grocery store only a mile away, but there's it's just 3 stores or 4 stores, and that's it. That's how I grew up.
Has Vegemite? What does it have in it?
Yeah, it has all the things. It's just you would need to go to a big city to get your full grocery shop. It's just a corner store.
Awesome. Well, good. Well, it's so good to see y'all. Chris, do you want to do intros?
Yeah. We have obviously. Well, it's. If you're new to the stream, Liz and I host this every Wednesday at 12 Eastern, 11 Liz's time, 9 my time. And then somebody reached out. They were like, are you okay? Because I haven't been here. But they're from Hawaii, and I forget Hawaii's 3 hours before. So they wake up, Liz, on Wednesdays at 6 to watch us because they like to watch us.
Wow, that is some commitment. That is impressive.
But yeah, no, so Liz and I host this. Thank you so much for being here. We're excited. It is OCD Awareness Week, if you're not familiar. And when Liz and I were talking about this, we're like, we haven't had Kim on the stream in a while. We'd love to have her back. She's the perfect person for OCD Awareness Week. So we'll talk about OCD Awareness Week in a second. But Kim Quinlan, I'll give her the friend intro and then the official one. But Kim Quinlan is just a friend to the community. She's a good friend of mine, good friend of Liz's. We love having her, but very successful podcast that so many people get information from. So please, if you like podcasts, go to youranxietytoolkit.com. Or Your Anxiety Toolkit is the name of it. She'll tell you where to find it, but it's found wherever podcasts can be found. But she also has CBT School, which is a great way for people that are really struggling to find a therapist or resources to be able to get help. and she is going to have a cool accent from Australia. And I always love that it comes back stronger when you're gone. But here's the official. So Kim Quinlan is a licensed marriage and family therapist. She has a private practice in Calabasas, California, specializing in the treatment of anxiety, OCD, related disorders, and eating disorders. She is also the founder of CBT School, an online psychoeducation platform that provides online courses for those with obsessive compulsive disorder and body-focused repetitive disorders. Our behaviors, rather. Kim is the author of the Self-Compassion Workbook for OCD and the host of your Anxiety Toolkit podcast, a podcast aimed at providing mindfulness-based tools for anxiety, OCD, depression, and BFRBs. So welcome.
Thanks for having me. That was a very grand introduction.
Of course. So
it is real. It is you. So we're excited to have you here. And I always like to talk about Kim as being somebody who, I think, Kim, you do such a great job of just making all of your followers and individuals who watch your content feel super safe. And I don't know if you hear that a lot, but I feel like you're so relatable. You're so non-judgmental in all of your approaches, and you just talk about so many things, but really in the realm of anxiety. And a lot of us use your language all the time, right? It's a great day to do hard things. And we talk about kind of all these different tidbits that I always call them, like, here's my Kim Quinlan analogy for the day. So we're just really excited to have you. I know a lot of folks have benefited so much from your work, and certainly will today as well.
Oh, thank you. That means a lot. Kimisms. What did you say on Saturday, Chris? Kim, so you made something about it.
Oh, yeah. Oh my God!
A rap, huh?
Oh, you're the notorious KIM. That's what it is. Instead of the notorious BIG, notorious KIM.
I love it. There we go.
Well, what I wanted to start off today with, it is such a cool week for us, right? OCD Awareness Week. And to me, I don't know how you both feel. It doesn't feel like you know how like sometimes there'll be ice cream day and pizza day. Like, this feels real. I've seen so many people. And what I love too is I've seen so many international people this week putting out resources, sharing resources, putting out videos. There's been podcasts, there's been live streams, there are in-person events, all this. So I'll throw it to you both. What does OCD Awareness Week mean for you? Has there been anything that you've seen that's inspired you? What are you excited about for this week? What do you hope happens? All the good feels.
Yeah, I'm happy to start, but it means what's happening. Like, I just think that it is so exciting and amazing and inspiring to see so many people advocating and talking about OCD, sharing their personal stories and journeys, and discussing clinical interventions, but also so many events, like live events, webinar, virtual events, kind of you name it. And I think that to see where OCD education, awareness, knowledge, stigma reduction has come in the past 10 years, it's awesome to watch and be a part of. And I think, it feels really real because it's happening all over the place.
Yeah, for me, it's fun because just last week, my daughter, the school, they were doing like a awareness for cancer. And she made these, the Taylor Swift bracelets for breast cancer awareness. But the cool thing is, she was like, well, if I'm making one for breast cancer, I might as well make one for OCD awareness. This is a kid who doesn't have OCD, but she was just thinking well, if this is the week I wear the bracelet. So she's off at school, sharing with people who didn't ask what OCD Awareness Week is. And I think it just gives people an opportunity to share that.
Well, what I love about that story, Kim, and we were talking about it in a meeting that I was in with Liz yesterday, it's like a lot of times one thing I hear from people so much is they see people like you, they see people like Liz, they see people like Ethan, et cetera. And they're like, well, I don't want to, I just, that's not me, right? Like, that's not the type of person I am. That's not how I advocate. But then they'll tell me stories of opening up to their doctor about having OCD. And maybe that's why they're asking for reassurance, or it's a parent telling another parent at a PTA meeting. And it's those, I call them face-to-face conversations that sometimes spread the message much in a different way that's needed. So although policy change is amazing, media is amazing, social media is amazing, I want people to watch, to not put pressure on yourself, right? Look at Kim's daughter doing this incredible thing that she's comfortable with. I have a client that's a teen that started an OCD and related disorder support group at their school, right? Like sometimes it's those like, door to door, messaging that's amazing. But what I just wanted to say is I've seen more international people posting about it. There's been a couple different videos I've seen of people from all around the world. And I think it's amazing because we always, want to make sure that people in all countries, all, areas of the world, are getting support, getting help. So happy OCD Awareness Week, every single person. And that's why we're here today.
Yes.
I mean, we're usually here, but that's part of why we're here, is just to make sure that people know. Just a housekeeping thing. Don't forget, if you go to the IOCDF, we have a calendar, an events calendar. I usually just put iocdf.org calendar. So hopefully Amanda could put the official one in the chat. But if you look at that, there's so many virtual events happening this week. There's so many in-person events this week. This Saturday, if you're in Orange County, we have rented out the Marriott in Costa Mesa. We're providing food. We're doing in-person support groups, in-person community events, talking. But I was looking at it just to see what everybody's doing. There's so many in-person events, so many virtual events. So please, please, please check that out and make sure you're aware of what's going on for OCD Awareness Week.
100%. So let's hop in. So a couple housekeeping reminders. As always, our live streams are intended to be educational and not replace therapy. IOCDF and or the live streams are not a crisis hotline. So if you're feeling unsafe or suicidal, we want you to call 911 or go to your local emergency room. You can also now call 988 if you're local in the US. These live streams are really, our goal is that we can bring content, we can bring guests, and we can really bring amazing education that can help get you to the right treatment. But of course, they should not replace treatment. So individual treatment questions, we will be answering them more broadly and generally, but for specifics to your own treatment, please make sure you're working with your individual provider. Chris, tell us all about today and what we're going to talk about.
Yeah, so as you all know, we are here with Kim Quinlan. So the first thing I want to talk about is, Kim, you just did an amazing, I was telling Liz about how good it was. You did an amazing presentation this past Saturday at OCD SoCal and Family and Loved One Support Group event. And you really talked about a very important message. So I'm going to tease it and then obviously throw it to you, but really just about how do you stay laser focused. You're doing the treatment, you're doing hard things, you're committing to your therapist, you're committing to the work and having motivation in a way that's kind, in a way that you're supportive, in a way that doesn't tear yourself down. So that's number one. Number two, what I'd love to hear from you as well is you have all these podcast episodes, and I always am curious, like for you or for Stu, has there been a recent episode that you want to share with our audience that you're like, hey, I think this is really a message that would help? And then before we jump into the questions, I want to hear from you, from Liz. I can share as well. As what I'm always curious about is, are the things I'm hearing from clients and from my support group, are you guys hearing those things? Are you guys hearing things about certain anxieties? I mean, I had clients that I'm licensed in Florida also, and I had clients in Florida like really anxious about the hurricane. There's stuff with wars, there's stuff with elections, there's people worried about being back at school. Like there's all these conversations. So I'm always curious what clinicians are hearing in their practice and that. So it's kind of the agenda before we jump into questions. But I wanted to ask you first, Kim, can you share with Liz, share with the audience, and recap for me, of course, some of the messaging that you shared on Saturday about kindness?
Sure. And of course, like the neighbor's gardener just showed up. So sorry about that. The most important podcast episode that I've created recently was actually just this week that came out. And the reason I share that before the motivation is it'll segue in, right? One of the comments I have the most with patients of all different conditions is this idea that anxiety creates so much urgency in their body, in their nervous system. Like you have to solve it, you have to fix it, you have to run away. And I'm often talking about a tool called patience. And patience is so important when it comes to recovery, because I understand you want to get better right away. I understand that you want to get rid of the anxiety right away. But patience is a skill that I don't think we talk about enough, because recovery requires so much of it. It does require the skill of being able to wait and for waves of anxiety to come and go, wait for things to, for the outcome. That's when you talk about motivation is a core concept, because so much of recovery requires that we get up and do the really scary, hard thing. And no one wants to do the scary, hard thing. If you don't want to do the scary, hard thing, no judgment. It makes complete sense. No one wants to do the scary, hard thing. And so often we think, oh, I should want to, or this should be easy. It shouldn't be as hard. But when we have that mentality, it makes it even harder to get up and do it. So here's sort of the myths of motivation. Number one, people believe that you should feel motivated to do things. And it's actually the opposite. You start doing the thing to feel motivated to keep going. So that's number one. Number two is, if you're beating yourself up as a way to motivate yourself, it might feel like you're getting, a lot of people say, if I don't beat myself up, I don't get it done. Like, if I don't say you're so lazy, just get up and do it. If I don't do that, it won't get done. We have so much evidence to prove that the more you beat yourself up, the more you procrastinate, the more anxiety you feel. So now you've got two problems. You've got to do your exposure, and now you're adding some more stress to your nervous system. And the less competent and confident you feel as you do it, because you've just beaten yourself up and said a whole bunch of mean things. What is a way more effective is to cheer yourself on. So think of yourself as a coach. When you have a lovely, kind coach, and you have, let's say you had to run the mile, which one would motivate you more? The one that says, get off your lazy butt and do it? Or the one that says, you've got this, you did it last time, just try. You might even see that you beat your mile by 1 second. Give it a go. You can do this. You've done it before. Or you can do this. You've done other hard things before. Which one feels better? And we have all the research to show that if you can strengthen the muscle of that voice, you will actually recover sooner, and you will have less anxiety as you do it, which is a win.
And what I love is that it can be a constant reminder to yourself too. So I don't know, Kim, if I've shared this with you, but I have this little story, but my daughter, Olivia, when she was 2, we went to Austin, and my nephew had this electronic dinosaur that she was terrified of. It's like eyes lit up, and it was just a scary thing. And at first she was like, I'm so scared of dinosaur, get rid of it. And so I was like, Matt, hide the dinosaur, right? So he hides the dinosaur. And she's like, I still see this tail. I'm so scared. And I'm like, Matt, like, really? You couldn't hide it better? So he's like, oh God. So he goes up and hides it. And of course, 2 minutes later, I'm like, what am I doing? I'm a behavioral therapist. This is ridiculous, So of course, everyone knows what I do. I pull out the dinosaur. But my conversation with Olivia was like, I know this is hard, and I know you can do hard things. And like, let's do this together. And so we sat down and we were playing with this dinosaur, and like within 30 seconds, right? But definitely within a minute, she's like, this dinosaur has pink lipstick. It's so silly. But anyway, what I love about the story is we use your language in our house all the time, Kim, because for kids, like, fear shifts, right? The next thing Olivia was afraid of was her electric toothbrush. She was like, I don't like it. Turn the noise off. And I was like, but remember the dinosaur? Like, remember how you can do hard things and how you felt after? Yeah, I was really happy. I was really proud of myself. Awesome. We can do that again. Next time she was going to go to the dentist. She was scared. We talked about it again. And I just love that also when you use this motivating language, but you're also validating that this is hard and you can do hard things, right? Like, both can be true. We're not sitting here saying like, you shouldn't care about this, or why are you scared of the dinosaur? Because that wouldn't make her feel good. It's like, yeah, you're scared and you can do this. We use that same analogy all the time, and it helps her be so proud of herself. And I love that from the self-compassion lens, right? Is like, can we teach people to be proud of yourself and to recognize every time you do hard things and you have this big win and how it felt?
Yeah. And what I love about your story too, Liz, is it's like a lot of times, sometimes people will say things like, oh, ERP is harsh or it's torture. And it's like, it wasn't. It was enlightening for your daughter. It was empowering. It taught her to feel like she has those internal abilities to do hard things. And I always tell people, the good news is the treatment you do for OCD, or, in your case, it wasn't your daughter's OCD, it was some fear, but she's going to use that skill now throughout childhood, throughout teens, throughout.
And what I tell people is like, I could have made it torture, right? Like some people, and I talk about this analogy all the time in trainings, because some people, I'll say, what do you think exposure therapy would be like? And they're like, you throw the dinosaur in her crib with her at night. Like, yeah, I guess like that would be exposure therapy, but that would be terrifying. And I would torture her, and the poor kid would have like this semi-trauma response versus like, no, we actually sit down and did it together, and it's a fun activity. And I let her see and acknowledge and praise her for the work she's doing.
But the thing to remember about that is exactly what you're saying is, and I think of this through the lens of my kids too, they only build self-esteem when they've done something hard. You don't get any self-esteem. You don't get a sense of mastery or confidence when things are easy. You get them when they're just hard enough that you're challenged, but not too hard that you feel horrid, right? And that's where our identity and our self-esteem and our confidence and our sense of self and our mastery over the world, that's where it comes from. And so if you've done these hard things with a voice that's kind and encouraging, you're a safe place to do hard things. You're a safe place to then do the presentation at work or, you know, the test at school. And so that's where these things can leak into every area of your life and create someone who does hard things, knows that they can tolerate discomfort, and they know that they've strengthened that patience muscle. So they're kind of they're like, I can kind of do anything. I know I could because I've got these ground skills.
Yeah. And what I will also say, just to kind of add in, is that it's about a simple thing I learned from Brene Brown's work and research is that learning can't happen if people are experiencing shame at the same time. And I feel like that simple explanation helped me learn so much. I remember my little sister was struggling with math, and like, if I sat there and be like, why don't you know this? Or everybody knows this answer. Like anything I say after that, she's not hearing, right? Because she's been shamed. She's experiencing shame, and it's, you know, we're not treating her kindly. She's not going to treat herself kindly at that point. She's going to think, yeah, I am dumb. Yeah, all these things. And so it's so critical that we just remember that, but it also goes for yourself, you guys. Like, I think a lot of us will be like, oh yeah, well, of course, like I shouldn't shame someone when I'm trying to get them to learn something, but we shame ourselves, right? We treat ourselves in these ways that elicit these feelings of shame, guilt, discomfort. And then we wonder why learning, or at least successful learning, isn't happening. Well, like they can't happen at the same time, actually.
There was a really good research that we looked over in grad school, and it was about people trying to change habits. I remember it being people trying to quit smoking, people trying to quit nail biting, gambling, and then people that report that they overeat. And they found that when they were harsh on themselves, they actually turned back to those habits even more, and they were less successful. And then they found, because there's 3 groups, they found if they were harsh and they had a partner that was harsh, maybe it was their husband, their kids, their mom that's constantly nagging them, it was even worse. They were smoking more, they're biting their nails more. So like you were saying, Kim and Liz, it's like there's actual research, right? This isn't us just saying like, hey, this is what we've observed. It's what we observe in practice, and there's research behind it. And I know sometimes it feels wrong or like weak or irresponsible to actually support yourself through this process. But I'm telling you, just like you're both saying, what Liz witnessed with her daughter, what you're saying, Kim, same for me. I mean, for my own personal experience, the days that I was harsh, there was no motivation. I wanted to shut down, go to bed, and beat myself up more. So I hope people hear this, because I think it's something that we do, unfortunately, a lot, you know, with OCD, depression, et cetera, is we're very, very harsh on ourselves.
Yeah. And one other thing I'll say is some people, when we talk about being compassionate, they don't really like the gentle, softer, like you, yay. They don't
it
like
feels
that.
fake for me. I feel that. Yeah.
So I actually did a whole episode. I think Matthew is referencing it in the comments. I did another episode about if that doesn't feel good, just act like your bestie. You know, if you've got like a bestie who's like, you know, a little more sassier and like, come on, you know, it's a little more like that. Like it can be that as well. As long as it's your bestie who like has your back and is like, girl, you got this. Like quit beating yourself up. Let's go. Let's have a good time with this. If that feels better, switch the tone of the voice to something that does feel good to you. It doesn't have to be like all unicorns and, you know, rainbows. It can be in any voice that motivates you, that feels good in your body.
Exactly. And to think about, yeah, it doesn't have to feel phony, right? I was looking earlier, if y'all saw me looking back for a while to try to find your workbook just to show folks. But, Kim Quinlan, Kim has an incredible self-compassion for OCD workbook that we give to mostly all of our patients, because it's just so useful. Because I think the first thing we do when we're struggling with OCD is like we throw self-compassion out the window, right? We treat ourselves poorly. We feel frustrated. And I think part of that is because living with OCD, right? You know what you're doing doesn't make sense. You know it's irrational, but you feel like you have to do it anyway. So there is this piece where it's like, oh, this is so dumb. Why am I doing this? This makes no sense. Like there's this piece that you kind of feel validated to like beat yourself up for it, but it's actually so unhelpful. And there's ways to really help yourself learn, right? And for those of you who haven't watched, check out our webinars through IOCDF's YouTube channel on inhibitory learning. We've done quite a few, but inhibitory learning is all about like the way we do ERP in a way that really sticks. And it's really about what are we learning? What are we teaching ourselves? Like, how are we changing our relationship across the board with our anxiety and OCD? And so to remember that self-compassion, kindness, like this actually all goes hand in hand, right? Because learning can't happen if we're not doing that at the same time.
Yeah, one thing I always tell people is what comes out of this treatment is learning. So I have a client right now and he's doing really, really well, but he keeps beating himself up because it wasn't perfect. And I'm like, you're what I'm trying to teach you a message. That's what the treatment's trying to teach you, and how to make that learning universal. So if you were able to enter this store and do this here, you don't have to go to every store in America to get comfortable. You now learn the basic way of like, I trust myself. I can go in these stores. I can do these things. And it's what I tell everybody is beating yourself up negates the learning. That's what we're trying to create, is learning. And then that sticks with you. So it's like learning how to do a math problem, really understanding the formula. It doesn't matter what numbers get thrown at you. You always can answer the question because you know the formula. That's why I keep saying we're learning the formula, but you're creating barriers when you're beating yourself up. And I know my mom used to say that to me when during my treatment. She's like, you're always reporting to me the bad things. She's like, you're able to get in my car now. You're not stuck doing checking compulsions for half an hour and I'm yelling at you, we're going to be late to your session. You're not sitting in my car like this the whole way home. You're not telling me that these thoughts keep coming and you can't, sleep and you're hating life. Let's talk about that a little bit more than talking about where you feel you're falling short.
And don't forget, self-punishment can be a compulsion. So true exposure and response prevention is doing the exposure and reducing the compulsions and reducing that self-punishment. That's like something we have to keep as a part of treatment. We want to reduce that because that does actually feed us back into the cycle.
Do you both see that? Because I think that's such a good point, Kim. So I want to hear from you too. I see it especially with people with taboo obsessions. Like if they have POCD, if they have harm OCD, sexual intrusive thoughts, it's like, I don't deserve to go out. I don't deserve to do this. I had a client that was showing up to every session looking like, she just came out of bed, which is fine. That's how I showed up to my therapy. But then she told me it was a compulsion. She's like, I don't feel like I deserve, like, who am I? I'm having thoughts of harming my younger brother. Who am I to like order makeup and like do my hair? I don't even deserve that. So do you see that in your practice, just that self-punishment, especially around taboo obsessions?
I see it a lot because I bring it up a lot, and I bring it up as like something that as a part of the assessment. I've had clients say that they don't buy the nice toilet paper because of their obsessions. They don't deserve the nice toilet paper. They don't deserve the nice new clothing or underwear that don't have holes in it. Like when you actually ask the question, like, how do you punish yourself for having these intrusive thoughts? You'll be surprised. Like a lot of people, I don't let myself drink water. I don't let myself order the nice thing on the menu. I don't let myself get my hair cut as regularly as I'd like. I don't let myself, stay in the shower that extra lovely minute where you just sort of stand there and be like, oh, this is so good. Like they don't let themselves do that. I think when we ask the question, we really get the depth of it. But if we don't ask the question, they mightn't even know to bring it up.
Yeah, I see this all the time. And I see, I give like a lot of people, their exposure is to actually get ready, right? Like do your hair, do your makeup, whatever you want to do. Like it's not that you have to, but if there's things you're purposely not doing, can you do it? And again, sometimes it's OCD, but sometimes a lot of it is depression too, right? It's this depression and that, this kind of like, I can't and I don't feel, but what Ken said earlier that I wrote down, because I want to talk about that later even more, is that belief that I need to feel up for doing my hair and makeup. I need to feel ready for it first, when actually what we know is that the feeling comes later. It doesn't come first. The behavior change is what has to come first.
So big. Nathaniel Van Kirk did a talk for us last year, and he was talking about that with motivation. Is there's such a, and I think it comes from marketing, right? Everybody's like, you're going to see a quote, or you're going to get to the gym, or you're going to go travel with your friends. You just need this product. And if you buy an SUV, you're going to be rolling around the mountains with a car. And it's like, when people are sitting at home, they don't feel that. They don't feel like going to the gym or going hiking or going camping. They wait for that feeling to come, or they'll like buy something or do something to wait for that feeling to come. And what we know is that's not how you create motivation. Motivation comes from doing. And as you start to feel confident, you get in your stride and you see success. That's what really inspires us to be motivated to keep going.
Totally.
I have a question for you too, and I want to get your opinions, either clinically or personal or both. It was a talk, because I was kind of asking what stuff comes up for you in your practices, and there was a really good talk out of my group last night, and I don't know how to word it, so maybe you guys will word it more eloquently, but we were really talking about like either like aha moments, or like what helped you have like a mindset shift, or like kind of find your stride or motivation. And there's really this conversation that everybody with OCD, it comes down to two things. The people that are afraid to kind of push forward, there's this comfort that comes from avoidance. It's like, I don't have to feel uncomfortable. I don't have to leave my house and deal with contamination. I can have my partner drive so I don't have to feel uncomfortable. I can say no to going to my kid's school so I don't get sick. But as we know, it's just reinforcing, and it feels good in the moment, but there's never a change. Or the second camp says, hey, kind of like what you say, Kim, I'm going to do hard things. It's going to feel uncomfortable in the moment, but it is a short-lived discomfort that comes with learning, which comes with confidence building. And then over time, this doesn't feel hard. And then I start getting the successes, and I start to get my life back, and now I can get better. And we're really kind of recognizing that there's these two camps of people that are just like, can't do it. It's too hard. I don't want to feel uncomfortable. And other people that are like, I embrace that because that means I'm gaining traction and I'm getting better. So they were asking, how do you jump to the camp? So what do you guys either personal or clinically see that can help people be open to starting to make that shift and really moving forward?
I get this question every day. And I feel like my answer is twofold. Number one, we actually don't encourage patients to start treatment if they haven't really spent time laying out their greater good goals, their motivation, or the reasons that they want to do treatment, the reasons they want to get better. So what are some of your goals? What are some of the things, if OCD and anxiety isn't loud, you would be doing, or that you want to get back to doing? I really want us to set those. Like, I want to make sure we have something that we're fighting for, right? Because we find that, especially in our level of care, which is residential, like, individuals don't have great success if they come in without saying, I want to get back to school. I want to be able to engage with my family again. I want to be able to get back to work. Like, the success is so much stronger when that's there. With that being said, I encourage people to look at a lot of the greater good work. John Grayson's done some stuff on this. Certainly Jeff Bell's done a lot of work on it, and to think about setting your goals. But the reality is that even with our goals set, I think most of us want to feel ready to do something. And again, the behavior has to happen first. So I give this example with anything. I am starting to tell people, so I'll tell everybody now, I'm pregnant with twins. So yes, I know, a little shocking for me, but I'm exhausted, like completely exhausted. And I've got 2 toddlers at home, right? So like in the morning when I wake up and my alarm goes off, or I hear the kids, like, I do not want to get out of bed, right? Like, I'm tired. I want to stay sleeping. And the more I think about it, the more I want to stay in bed. Like, there's no piece of me that's like, oh my gosh, now all of a sudden, let me get up. This is going to be great and fun, right? But if I get up and get out of bed and get going and wash my face, brush my teeth, take my shower, do whatever, all of a sudden I start feeling more apt to that I'm up and active and ready for the day, right? But I think so many of us, we want to feel a certain way first. You all experience this when you hit the snooze button, right? Like, you don't want to get up. You want to keep sleeping. You want to keep kind of delaying as long as you can, but that doesn't make you feel any more motivated to get up. Like, the way you end up feeling motivated to get up is by getting up first, right? So those aha moments tend to come after after, not before. And a lot of us want them to happen first. So I feel like people always want me to have some super enlightening answer. My answer is usually like, actually, like, I need you to do the behavior change first, then you're going to feel it later.
Real quick. I'm not texting, except I am texting a group chat with my sister and Liz right now because my sister has twins.
Because Chris has been promising me he's going to connect us, and he hasn't done that.
I know, and I keep telling my sister, and she keeps saying, "Okay, do it. Okay, do it." So I'm doing it right now, so I don't forget. But I'm so glad you told everybody.
And I'm just sitting here like,
what's wrong with Liz? Yeah, she's crazy. I know. I feel the same way, Kim.
Oh my gosh, you're like literally my hero right now.
Oh, yeah, you're so sweet. I'm gonna have 4 under 4, so everybody just give me all your good vibes, you know?
Oh my gosh, so many good vibes. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just did the group chat, so now my sister can tell you. I actually saw my nephews on Saturday. Twins are going to be a thing, man, but it is so rewarding, and it's so cute because they're 5.5 months now, and they finally will like start holding hands, and they'll like snuggle with each other, and they like know each other, and they both have a skill. Bo, he has this chair and he's learned how to kick his own legs, so he rocks himself and he like will do it for hours.
I love that.
And then Luke learned how to roll, so if you set him down, he's just rolling around the house. So you'll get to a point where it's so worth it. It's so cute, but
so fun.
I'm glad you told
everybody. Chris, did you have a thank y'all so much. Y'all are all so sweet. I see in the chat. Chris, did you have an aha moment? I'm curious.
Yeah, no, I was telling about it kind of. I had 2 moments. I had an aha moment that created change. And then I really had like a mindset, motivation, goal change that you just spoke about. My aha moment's kind of embarrassing, but I had been so housebound, disconnected from people my age. And I was living with my grandma, my dad, and my really younger sister. So I really didn't have connection with people my age. And I was only leaving the house to go to treatment. And there was a special on with Justin Timberlake from NSYNC, and he was shooting a music video. And Justin Timberlake's not really my age. I think he's a little bit older, but he's around my age. And I just didn't have people my age. And he was shooting this music video, and he was on a beach. And, you know, I don't want to sing or be a dancer. I can dance, but if you heard me sing, you'd be like, no, you can't sing.
I want to see you dance.
I can dance. I will. Kim knows. We danced at Ethan and Katie's wedding. I was just saying Ethan and Kim's wedding, but I'm like, we can't drop that too. Liz can't have twins, and you can't be marrying Ethan.
What's happening?
But no, I mean, I just remember one of the rituals I had is obviously I had contamination, but I had a lot of like, you know, just magical thinking, feeling responsible to do things to prevent harm. And one of my safe things was to do things 7 times. So 49 really, but 7 was a good number. And so when I'd wash my hands, I'd wash them 7 times in a row, but then I had to do that 7 times. So it was 49 times, which is why I used to sit with gloves and not touch things because it was exhausting. But I saw this music video and I saw, you know, somebody around my age getting better, or not getting better, but living their best life. And I'm like, I'm sitting here in my grandma's basement, unable to function. Meanwhile, there's people like that just living their best life. I want that. And I remember I went upstairs and I was like, I'm only washing my hands 7 times. That just has to be enough. And when I went to my therapy session that next week, I'm like, I'm no longer doing it 49 in a row. It's only 7. And that cut out hundreds of hand washing. But I think the real shift for me is when I started getting harm thoughts around my grandma and my younger sister. My younger sister and I were really, really close. Not the one with twins. I have a younger sister. And I remember one day she was walking and her hair got onto some of my stuff because girls' hair gets everywhere. And my immediate thought was to like hit her head into the wall. And I was like freaked out that I had that thought. And I'm like, I can't be around her. And it was sad because she was only 11 and we were so close. And I started to pull away from her. And what really broke my heart is I remember I heard her crying in the room. And I asked my grandma, I'm like, why is she crying? And she's wondering, my grandma said, she's wondering what you're doing wrong because you're not playing with her anymore. I used to take her to a soup plantation. We used to go to the movies. And then at the same time, I stopped being around my grandma. I saw like a 60 minutes of these kids that pushed their grandma down the stairs, and they ended up because they found the will and found that they were going to get money and got away with it for like 40 years. And then one of the brothers cheated on his wife, and then he had told her about, you know, the grandma, and she went to the cops. So I'm always like, don't cheat, if you've killed someone. But I just got the thought that that's what I want to do. Like, I want to do that, right? And my grandma didn't have any money, but my brain was like, you want to do that. You're trying to plot it. You're trying to see how to get away with it. So now the two people that are closest in my life, I'm not seeing, and my little sister's crying. And so for me, that kind of mindset shift, aha moment, and really motivation came like, holy crap, something that means so much to me is being taken from me. It was more abstract that I was like not having friends, not working. I mean, that was important to me too, but it was more tangible. And I remember going to my therapist and being like, tell me what I got to do. And she's like, you got to spend time with them. You got to invite those thoughts in. You got to walk behind your grandma when she goes down the stairs. Watch another episode of 60 Minutes. And I was like, are you crazy, woman? But it worked. And it was like, I was taking my sister out again. She was like happy again. My grandma, I was spending time with her. I'd go in her room. And I told my clients this, when my brain said, you want to kill your grandma? I got up those stairs, sat on her bed. Let's watch a show together. When it was like, you want to kill your sister? I'm like, awesome. Let's take her to the movies. Right. So for me, that was like the real changing point for my treatment. I was tangibly losing something that meant so much.
Yeah. And for me, it's similar. Like, I haven't ever overcome anything in my life until I had like a rock bottom with it. There's this, it's kind of not a rock bottom. It's more of a, I'm so sick of myself in this behavior, and not in a judgmental way of just like, this is not serving, like Liz said, my greater good. This isn't in line with who I want to be. But for me, in terms of being in these two camps, what has helped me the most is just being curious. So for me now, my goal, my biggest personal development goal for myself is to have no emotion I'm unwilling to feel. Like, if I can get to that, that will be it. I'll be so happy. And so for me, it's saying, okay, I've gotten really good at having fear. Let's say I've done a lot of work around fear, and I've done a lot of therapy around facing fears and so forth, but I'm really still struggling with guilt. Like, I have a strong reaction to guilt. I'm like, okay, so let's be curious about guilt. Where do I feel it? Where does it show up? Can I practice maybe having it for a minute, 2 minutes, maybe 4 minutes? And so I kind of tend to work more of an incremental way with curiosity of like, let's just see what would happen if I allowed it for 4 minutes, and then sort of stop and be like, okay, doable, what worked, what didn't. So that's sort of the model I use but with a ton of curiosity.
And you know what thing, I don't know if you feel like this adds on to what you just said, Kim, but one of the things, one of my professors in grad school, she was a big fan of Brene Brown, and she was a fan of all that work. She was Buddhist, and it was my professor. And I remember she said once, she's like, no emotion or feeling is bad. We need to feel those emotions. They have a purpose. What's hard in OCD, obviously, is we're feeling emotions that don't align with our reality. You know, we're feeling panic when we don't need it. But outside of that, like, emotions are not bad. They're inherently needed. We don't want to be laughing and smiling and happy if we just witnessed something horrid, right? If we're missing our pet, we don't want to have, we want to be able to feel those feelings. So I think sometimes what happens over time is we get into this culture of avoidance. And that's what I wanted to ask you, Liz, because I've been listening to your podcast because I had so much time on a damn plane. So I want to ask you this question. Like, what I love about the podcast that you have with Callie is it's really this messaging that I'm trying to like incorporate in my own life, is like, we can't be in this culture of avoidance. And that's really what your podcast talks about. We get so to this point where we almost create a world that prevents us from being anxious. That's already a problem, but I think for our community, it's double a problem, because the more we do that, the smaller our world gets. So can you just talk a little bit about that message that you and Callie are really putting out there about why it's not a goal to try to de-anxiety our life to the point that we don't experience anything?
Totally. I mean, in the lines exactly what Kim just said, right? Like, you want to get to a place where there's not any emotion you're unwilling to feel. But if you aren't there, so if you're at a place where you're like, I'm willing to do this, but not this, or I hope I don't feel this way, or I hope my OCD doesn't throw this at me, or, I can deal with anything as long as this thing doesn't come up for my anxiety. Guess what's going to come up? Guess what's going to show up, right? The things we don't want, the things we're trying to make sure we don't have to experience. And so, unfortunately, we need, those of us with anxiety, have to really think about, what message are we sending to our anxiety? Are we sending the message that you're dangerous? I can't tolerate you. I'm afraid of you. Or I like to call it this bring it on approach, right? Do I live my life with this kind of like, bring it on? Like, whatever it is, whatever thought, whatever anxiety, whatever feeling, bring it on. that doesn't mean I'm going to love the feeling. It doesn't mean I'm going to enjoy the feeling, right? But it's that I'm willing to tolerate it. Like, I'm not afraid of it. And when we get to a place in our life where we're not afraid of things, they can't control us, right? Because the fear can't win, it can't control us. But when we are walking around hoping that we don't have to feel fear or that we don't have to be triggered, we actually are increasing our likelihood that we're going to feel fear, we're going to be triggered, and that's what's going to control us. And so everything I want us to be thinking about is, what message am I sending to my brain? Am I sending the message that this is dangerous, that I can't tolerate it, that I can't do hard things? Or am I sending the message that, yeah, this might suck and I can do hard things, and I'm ready for you, and bring it on?
Yeah. It's so important. I mean, just to self-disclose, like, traveling is hard for me. Like, I have the tools, but it's so unknown because I just didn't travel because of my OCD. My brain was like, you get radiation on the plane, you have to go through these scanners, your stuff goes through these scanners. What if you get cancer? What if you get a disease? What if you lose your luggage out there? What if, there's volcanoes on Iceland? What if one erupts? Like, you're driving in countries you don't know. What if you get an accident? My mom was with me. What if something happens and then you're responsible? So I had all these reasons to not go. And I went. And I remember, like, there was a hike that we did, and my mom was like, all right, I tapped out. This hike is just too much. You're young. Go do the hike, right? And so I was like sitting there like, oh my God, like, we're in a foreign country and my mom's going to go down back the mountain on her own. And I'm going to go up there, and what if happens? And I was like, okay, this woman has lived on this planet longer than I've been here and she's been fine. Like, let me just let her go. But my point is, it's like, if we allow that fear, that anxiety to take over, we miss out on experiences. Everything turned out fine. There were some things that were bumpy and rough, but I was able to manage them. But I was saying this to Michelle Whitkin, a good friend of all of ours, at a talk I did. And I was like, not only does OCD bring out worst case scenario, but it makes you so small in that story. So when your brain is telling you about the bad things that could happen, it neglects to remember that you're wearing armor. You got a sword. You're ready to fight back. It makes you this small little weak peon running around crying. We have to remember and reflect. That's why I tell clients, I love journaling. If you can do it, it's great, because you get to flip back to old pages about the awesome things you've done that help remind you that you're big enough and strong enough to handle moments when they arise.
100%.
I wanted to bring up a couple comments that I thought we could discuss because they were moving to me. So Amanda at 12:29, your time, Brooke Miller says, I self-punished myself by over-exercising and heavily restricting caloric intake for having sexual intrusive thoughts about other people than my husband. It led me to an ED that almost killed me. What I'd love to hear from both of you, because Brooke talks about it in her own way, people forget that by us giving into the OCD, not only does it reinforce, but these kind of things happen, right? Like, people restrict food eating. People aren't leaving the house. I've had clients with OCD around contamination in the bathroom that will hold it for days. So can you talk a little bit about just why giving into the OCD is not only, takes you away from your goals, but can sometimes be dangerous or at least cause more difficulties? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think the thing that's so important to address here is that there is a huge overlap between OCD and eating disorders. People with eating disorders do have a high rate of having OCD behaviors or meeting criteria for OCD, and vice versa. And so I think what's happened, and I had an eating disorder, I felt very much as soon as I was trained in OCD, I was like, my eating disorder was exactly like having OCD. It had the same, obsessions and compulsions. And so I can completely understand why it went from one thing to the other. And I think what we can see here is, yes, there are significant times when your compulsions can create medical issues, in this case, an eating disorder. Obviously, when they said almost killed you, it was like it can cause malnourishment, and so forth. So I think this is why in our treatment that I do with my peeps is to look at which compulsions you're doing and also assess for whether they are causing a medical concern and attacking those first, really targeting those, because we've got to keep you safe and well so that you can get back to your big, wonderful life of recovery.
Yeah. Another comment I really liked was from Amy Ellickson at 12:37. For me, it was realizing that as I was entering my elder years, OCD was going to keep on taking what I value most. It was worth the risk to stand up to OCD, to live life according to my values, no matter what or how intense the fear was. What I wanted to ask you too, and a two-part question is, one thing I hear from a lot of people, and I'm glad Amy brought it up, is I've heard from clients that are like, this has been my life for 40 years. Why get better now? I can't get better. These have been reinforced. So just for the people listening to this that have had OCD for decades, can you still get better when you're older? And then second, we do a lot of values talk. How can somebody who maybe has lost sight of their values figure out or reclaim what matters to them so they do have direction and motivation?
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to share this at the residential level. We have people seeking treatment for severe OCD for the first time when they're 70 and 80 years old, and this treatment can change their life. And their viewpoint is like, why wouldn't I get treatment now if it's available and I can, have found it? Many people, we know it takes a long time from when they first have symptoms to understanding what's going on to being able to access evidence-based treatment. So there's no such thing as somebody's had it for too long, or you're too far gone, or you're too far in it. Like, that doesn't exist. That's a myth. And my answer would be like, yeah, it's taken away a lot of your life, and that's really hard. And we want to process that with you. And let's not let it take away more of your life. Let's not just accept that this is what it has to be moving forward, because it doesn't.
Amen. And Kim, how does someone who maybe lost sight of their values, how do they reconnect or at least figure out what's important to them so that they can reconnect with something to fight for?
Yeah, I think it goes back to that curiosity piece. So often by the time someone's had OCD and it's taken so much of their life, they have missed out on figuring out what they value, right? Or it's taken it away from that. And so now we get to be curious and playful. I emphasize those two words about, let's see, again, use it as an experiment. It's not that we're goaling for you to have some kind of euphoria right away and feel so aligned. This is going to be an experience of, trying again and trying again. I'm going to go swimming. Did I like swimming? No, I didn't love it. Okay, that's fine. Let's go to the next thing. What about spirituality? That used to be really important to me. Let's go and try that again. Did I like it? Yeah, that felt in line, or it did, but not the way it used to. Okay, let's experiment with what else works for you. I want to often highlight for clients too here is people with OCD aren't the only people who are having to do this work. Even if you didn't have OCD, I'm still constantly learning about like, oh, I had no idea that I do enjoy that, or that used to feel really fun for me, but it doesn't anymore. Okay. Again, same curiosity, non-judgment. Like, okay, it's all right that I don't love this. I was telling someone that last weekend, a few years ago, I had a nephew who was like at a national level tennis. He put everything into tennis. He was in the top like professional level, was going to be a pro. And then one day he was just like, I don't think this is right for me anymore. Like, I've got other things I'm interested in. I'm curious about these other areas. And that's okay, even though he had put decades and thousands of dollars and hours into training, it's all right for you to say, actually, I changed my mind, right? And that's okay. So I think it's important as we look at values to give ourselves permission that this is an evolution, whether you have OCD or not.
Well said. It's a good reminder that other people experience that as well. Another question for you from a comment from 1244. This is always my math because I have to add 3 to the time. I believe it's either Sabra or Sabra says, I completely understand. I have OCD all my life since early childhood, but not diagnosed until my 40s. But here's the thing that I'd love to hear from you both. Now I'm just trying to fight. It's so hard. It's a battle every day. Can you talk to that? Because I think that's what I hear from a lot of people is they feel like it's a battle every day, a fight every day. They're exhausted. They're burnt out. What do you say to someone who's either feeling like they're fighting with no treatment or they're in treatment and it still feels like a fight? Like, how do people kind of keep their battery full so that they can move forward? Because sometimes it may feel like that, just feeling pretty burnt out.
I mean, I'm happy to hop in. I think that this is where I want to talk a little bit and encourage you guys to watch our like ERP 101, OCD 101 webinars we've done that you can find on IOCDF YouTube channel is that if treatment feels like it's this exhausting, daunting process and this really difficult battle, I want us to really reevaluate what we're doing in our ERP process. So are we white knuckling? Are we holding on? And ERP shouldn't feel brutal. It should feel hard. It should feel difficult at times, but it should feel freeing. It should feel rewarding. It should give you this like peace. You should be able to see the value in it, and it should make sense and feel really values based and logical. And it, again, doesn't mean it's hard, but it's really, I'm sorry, doesn't mean it's easy, but it's really important to recognize that if what you're doing feels like it's just this daily grind and that like, oh, it's just this brutal thing we have to do every day, I always ask our patients, what are you holding on to? Or how are you doing ERP? Because it sounds like you're doing it, but you're like white knuckling through versus you're actually doing it and letting go. When we do it and let go and we really commit to it, it should feel really freeing, not really crippling.
Yeah. And the only thing I would add to that is if there is any way you can find somebody else who is going through it, it tends to make the hard days just tolerable, because it is hard. There will be stages of recovery where you're just like, this is like, I just can't. But I have every patient of mine who've said when you can, through IOCDF or support groups, if you can have somebody who's willing to be there along the way with you, it can very much help. So I would just encourage you to do your best to find like-minded people who are also, it doesn't even have to be OCD. Maybe they're handling something completely different, but that you have someone where you can get support as you do these hard things.
Yeah, that support group component or that community is so important. There's other questions we didn't get to, but I'm always copying and pasting to our big list of questions. So if we didn't get to your question or comment, that's what I'm doing. But in the last like 4 or 5 minutes, our title today is Ask the Experts, Expertise and Advocacy with Kim Quinlan. So what I'd love to take us out with is that advocacy piece, because we didn't really talk about it as much. It's OCD Awareness Week. It's not over yet. It's not over until midnight on Sunday, or Saturday rather, the 19th. So y'all can at 11:59 on Saturday still advocate for OCD Awareness Week. But either can you both speak to like, what can people maybe advocate for the rest of the week, or what are some ideas that they can do, or for you to like, what advocacy empowers you, or what would you like to see with advocacy? I'd like us to end on that for people that are tuning in for OCD Awareness Week.
Yeah, for me, I really want us to advocate a message of hope. I think that there is so much benefit to us being vulnerable and sharing our stories and sharing our struggles. And it's equally important for us to make sure that we are sending a message of hope and a reminder that treatment works and that we have one of the most successful evidence-based treatments available for a mental health condition in ERP for OCD. And I just hope that we're continuing to send that message. And I love when I see that, because it just continues to be a reminder that, oh, this is hard. Wow, I haven't gotten, better, but there actually is treatment that can work for me. And that treatment is something I'm willing to commit to because it can change my life.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I think the only thing I would add to Liz is, of course, that, but also that there is a choice to do it kindly. It is a very successful treatment. It's also challenging, right? It's work, right? And there's an option to do it kindly. And I want you to offer yourself that opportunity to either do the treatment kindly or to create a place of kindness as you experience these intrusive thoughts, which can be pretty mean and painful, and have that just be your one daily intention that you set is, may I be a safe place to have these icky thoughts.
Yeah. And I'll say,
what about you, Chris?
Yeah, I was going to say what I think is so great is we have so many more people that are advocating and want to advocate. And I get so many people that will ask me in person or call or text or email. And what I just want to say is like, we were kind of having this discussion once again in that meeting with you, Liz. And I think what it is we see some disorders out there, schizophrenia, autism, et cetera. And just one day it happened, right? There was enough of a message, there was enough advocacy that it pushed through and got to that mainstream. And we see insurance changes, we see donation changes, we see event changes, conversation changes, I feel the most hopeful I've ever felt having this disorder, that more and more people are starting to understand it, where I really start to see it. I'm telling you, those young people, I sound like the old guy would get off my lawn, but no, I'm telling you, like one of my clients, she's 13 and she was
Those
showing
young
me
ones.
those young ones, right? But she's a 13-year-old client. She was showing me a TikTok that kind of like a mainstream TikTok person did, who kind of characterized OCD. Nothing like vicious or venomous, but just kind of used it incorrectly. And she was showing me the comments, and like, sure, there was comments that were about other parts of the video, but there's a lot of comments that were like, hey, I have OCD and it doesn't really work like that. Or like, hey, click on this site, this is what OCD really is. And it wasn't one or two comments. I mean, it was probably every fifth comment. And I'm like, wow, there's people out there that are saying, hey, I have OCD. That's not what it is. Here's what it really is. And some people don't even say they had it. They're like, oh, I don't think that's what OCD is, or, oh, my friend has it. So the good thing is like the conversation is shifting. So like I said, I always think about Val, who painted her nails teal because she wasn't ready to open up about her OCD, but that was advocacy for her.
Yes.
So in this OCD Awareness Week, I feel like we are shifting the tides. We just got to keep doing it. So stay hopeful. Final thoughts. What is everybody's final thought? I'll start with you, Kim. You're the guest. And then I'll go, and then you could end it for us, Liz.
I just want to thank you guys for having me. I'm so grateful for this community. And I think that my main thought is, put everything you can into the community, meaning even if I've found so many people found it's helpful to do hard things when you're cheering somebody else on. So get involved with the community this week, whatever social media platform you're on. If you don't even want to post, just get in the comments and read what other people are doing and get excited about the mass. Like, this is way different to how it was 10 years ago. What we're like, when I was trained in 2010, this is very exciting, where the amount of change that we've made. I think we should be all celebrating.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah, I think my message, and Chris will let you end, is just that treat yourself kindly, right? Treat yourself like you would a friend, or who's somebody that you cheerlead for yourself. Remember that learning can't happen if you're experiencing shame and guilt and all these feelings. And oftentimes that compulsion is keeping you stuck. And so be really thoughtful about that. And remember, ERP should get you to freedom. It should feel freeing. It should feel exciting. It should feel amazing, because it can get you back to that life you want versus the life that OCD has taken away from you. And it's going to be hard at the same time. And that's okay, because you can do hard things, in the words of Kim Quinlan.
I'll just say, first and foremost, for OCD Awareness Week, there's so many resources out there. So please go to the calendar on the IOCDF and find something near you that can be virtual. And I am sharing the screen with two women that have amazing podcasts. Podcasts can make you feel like you're part of a community. So please check out Anxiety Society with Liz and Your Anxiety Toolkit with Kim. But I'm going to end us with Matt's comment that was inspired by you, Liz. Love the Bring It On mindset. It's extremely empowering and was a game changer in my recovery. Finally, I took all the questions we didn't get to about insomnia, not sleeping, overthinking, COVID, false memories. So we put them on our list of questions. We'll definitely get to those. Hang out with us next week. We'll be back next Wednesday at 12 Eastern. And thank you so much, Kim, for being with us. And happy OCD Awareness Week. Go to IOCDF.org. Take care.